Hey, welcome to the HTM Hackers Hangout again. I'm Matt Taylor I'm on the Central Coast, and we've got several community members and Numenta engineer Austin Marshall, who's in Mountain View. And hello, everybody. I won't introduce you all individually, but we will have time to have some discussion if you like after I run through this quick agenda and let you know what has been going on. So we've been chatting a little bit here, so as some of you guys have noted, the community seems to be growing quickly. We're still seeing new faces come in, asking good questions, so I think the community health is in a pretty good state. If I'm wrong about that, I expect you guys to tell me if something needs to be altered, tweaked, whatever. The main thing I wanted to talk about that we've been working on is continuous integration stuff. It's not the most exciting topic, but we're in the process of migrating all of our pipelines for NuPic and NuPic Core to be on the same infrastructure as all of our other Numenta projects. We used to have them all on this old Jenkins system, and that was all behind a firewall, and nobody could see it. So when we open source, we put all the open source stuff out on Travis CI and AppVeyor, which are free for open source projects, and they're all publicly available. But then we've got a bunch of disparate systems doing CI, and that's not what we wanted. So we're trying to consolidate everything into Atlassian Bamboo, which is an open source platform. It's very hackable, so we can write our own plugins and stuff. With the idea being that we want a publicly facing continuous integration system that anybody in the community can see all the moving parts. And if necessary, if someone wants to take ownership of any of those components, we have the ability to give them permission to do that. So that was one of the impetuses behind this movement. So we're working on it. We're building up the Bamboo stuff. We've got all of our projects building on Bamboo. We've shut down Jenkins. We're working on simplifying the NuPic and NuPic Core builds. So we've got an explicit version dependency now instead of what we had. And we did that because we know once we have the Bamboo setup all done, it's going to be releases are going to be super easy because any of the binary packages that are created in those pipelines are release candidates. So we could easily promote any one of those to a release with a push of a button. So if we ever need NuPic to be synced with NuPic Core, releasing NuPic Core is super easy. So that's the idea there. It should smooth the whole process out. It's already decomplicated some things, which is great. So at the end of this, we'll have one CI system that's publicly accessible that we can all work on if we need to, and everything will be simpler. Okay. Our guy, Austin's been working on this. I have. Scott has done a lot of work. Vitaly's been helping. A lot of it has just been creating these build agents that are isolated, sandboxed enough so nobody can do anything destructive for OS X, for Linux, and for Windows. So we're still building out the Windows agent. Once we do that, we'll turn off AppVeyor. But I think we'll be able to turn off Travis CI pretty soon, hopefully early next week. So that's the main thing that's happening here. I don't know if Austin, you have anything that you want to bring up? Just pipe in.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add, and it may not be entirely clear. One of the simplifications that we're doing is creating binary releases exclusively on PyPy, and we want to simplify that process as well. So we are working on this what's called this mini Linux initiative. Python has this specification that they defined called mini Linux that sets a kind of a baseline for libraries that you can link against in their versions that they know to just generally work in most scenarios. So it's basically like an old version of CentOS. And so if you can get your system to build in that environment and produce a wheel, then you can actually publish those Linux binary wheels on PyPy so that when you do pip install Linux or pip install NuPic, it downloads that Linux wheel that's precompiled as opposed to having to install a very specific wheel file from a URL that people aren't particularly used to. So there's a lot of work going into making that happen. So
yeah, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, it should simplify things for Linux users.
Yeah, so our instructions for installing from binary on Linux are no longer like pip install this long URL to wherever we stashed it on S3. It'll just be pip install nupic. So across the board, once that's set up, just pip install nupic, Windows, Linux, and OS X, which is great. Other topics. I don't have anything necessarily to talk about. I am going to be sunsetting the Nupic tooling server, which is a JavaScript server that's been running for over 3 years, just to kind of grease the skids of our open source pipelines. It does a lot of communication. As we move towards Bamboo, a lot of the things it doesn't need to do anymore because Bamboo will take care of, and the other things it can be drastically simplified. So I'm migrating functionality out of that into something else that I haven't quite decided what it is yet. But that's not a big deal. David Ray, you want to talk about what you've been active in HTM Java?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot been going on. A while ago, about a month ago, Alex Lavin posted a link, and there have been some attempts to run HTM.java with the Numenta anomaly benchmark, and the results were kind of poor. And so since then, I've been working to get the results, just looking into it and looking to get the results to be better. So one of the tacks I took was to, since there were a lot of rewrites happening with the temporal memory, just to rewrite the algorithms and try to vet them as closely as possible. And so I came up with a way to do that, which was to create a random number generator that would output the same random numbers for several of the random methods in both Python and Java. And in that way, I would inject that into the Python and into the Java versions and compare the outputs. And that worked a lot better than I ever dreamed it would. Even for floating point numbers, the output is exact. So we figured out a way to do that. And as a result, the temporal memory, it's been rewritten 3 times, but the Python version has been rewritten 3 times, and the Java version has been rewritten twice. And I'm waiting on the next merge to update the Java version with the latest changes in the Python version. But with my version now, which is the second update, I'm getting exactly the same results in the temporal memory as in the Java version as in the Python version. So for running one of the NAB files for 4,031 lines, we're getting the exact same cell choices and SDR, outputs. So I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, I never thought I would ever be able to do something like that. It would always have to be, closely vetted as possible using the unit tests. But now we can get the exact same thing with the temporal memory. Unfortunately, then I rewrote the spatial pooler, but the spatial pooler does so many floating point calculations that, and it has nothing to do with the random number generator, because after the initial, I get the exact same neighborhoods and pool setup as with the Python version, and everything is great, and it runs for 42 lines, and you start to see the first diversions after 42 lines of this 4,000 line NAB file. So, but that's a great thing. I mean, you know, we're just never, just because there are floating point differences doesn't mean that the actual, you know, processing is any less quality. It's just, that's just the way it is between Python and Java. And I tried for the longest time yesterday to try to get the same thing, and I would have to hobble Java in so much in order to try to get the same input, and I still couldn't do it. I mean, if I used the big decimal class, which is a really heavyweight way to get precise floating point numbers, when it's necessary for like financial applications or trading applications, then you have to do something like that. But for this, it's not really necessary, because what you want is the intent of the algorithm, and not necessarily the exact output necessarily. So I'm happy that we got the exact same setup. You can look at all of these, you know, the initial permanences for both the for the SP setup, and you can see everything's set up the same. And it makes like 1,000 calls to the random number generator in order to do this setup. It's incredibly complex, but that part doesn't throw it off. It's just that when you start to do additions and multiplications and all these operations on the floating point numbers, you start to see the variances. So I'm good with it right now. What I have to do right now is to have this. We're waiting on Marcus Lewis, has been doing some great work and really optimize the Python and the C++ version. So I'm waiting on his last change, which I will then update the Java version with, and then after we get that in and merged, then we'll be able to run the NAB, and I'm like 99% sure that we're going to get really good NAB results from that. So that's kind of where we're at. We've made a lot of progress, and the universal random number generator code is you know, it's up in a public gist. It's so you can take a look at stuff like that if you want to. But yeah.
So I've got a suggestion, David. You're in a position where you're always going to be playing catch up to whatever development is happening in NewPick. I think you should consider version locking, or whenever you release an HTM Java version, if we get to that point, that it's locked to a NewPick version, and then creating some type of integration testing job to run them both in parallel and do some type of comparison. But then if like there's a bunch of ongoing development in NewPick, you don't necessarily have to worry about that until you get to it. You know, you can continue working on what you're doing.
That's a good idea.
And not being distracted. So suggestion.
Yeah. I have to mention. Are we still? Something froze. Can everybody hear me? Because Matt's out.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you and see you.
Yeah, we can all hear you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I apologize for that, but anyway, I'm waiting on Matt, so I don't know if he's there. But anyway, what was I going to say? I don't even think I remember now what I was going to say. Oh, about the locking the releases to specific versions. I like that idea, and I think that's going to work really well. So, yeah, I'll look into employing that for the next release, actually, which will come as soon as we update the software.
Hello.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, was that all just me? Was that my problem entirely?
Yeah, it seemed to be because everyone else could hear me.
All right. Well, did you hear what I was suggesting?
I sure did, and I think it's a great idea, and I'm going to employ it for the next release.
Okay.
So at least you know, it'll be documented what the correspondence is between HTM.java and I don't know about the running both in an integration. I don't know if I can run Python and run that, and I guess I can. I mean, you know, but that seems like a lot of trouble.
You can do anything. You're a programmer. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the update, David. Hey, so I saw Scott pop up. Is there anything you want to talk about, Scott? I did go over, where we're at in the transition from open source pipelines to Bamboo, and
yeah, I heard you talk about that. Nothing to add.
okay, nice haircut.
Thanks.
So that's it. That from us anyway. If you guys want to bring something up and chat while we're all sort of in the same virtual room, please speak up. Okay, well.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay, go.
Are we allowed to ask about sensory motor stuff?
No.
No. I'm actually just curious when we're going to get a little bit more information on it. Really looking forward to, I don't know, maybe algorithm pseudocode or something like that. That'd be really cool to have.
Scott, can you say something about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it'd be great if we had that.
Still work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, there's still just a lot of questions and holes to fill in. So obviously, that's our top priority as a company right now. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know when the last time Jeff put something out on the work, but I'm sure anytime there's any significant progress that you guys will be he'll post something on Discourse or somewhere.
Cool. Awesome.
And, I mean, you can watch the research repository. That's where the code is going to be going. And there's already some preliminary. I don't think there's much going on. I can't tell what they're doing. But yeah, watch there. I mean, it'll be cryptic. You might not understand what's going on, and read the disclaimer of the README. It says none of this is stable. None of it's stable.
Right.
So
cool. Thanks.
So there does seem to be a lot of experiments going on with cortical columns in the macro column sense. So I see Subutai doing some things there with lateral connections between cortical column bundles and stuff. I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly, but
yeah,
you can see that there's some stuff going on.
It's all exploratory research at this point, I think, is a good way to put it.
Gotcha. Actually, that reminds me of another question I had. So the spatial pooler, when it selects a mini column, is that throughout every layer, or is that just for one layer? So would you have a spatial pooler for each layer, or just do spatial pooling once and then have that throughout the whole, I guess, 6 layers?
Hierarchy?
Yeah, whole hierarchy.
I think that's still to be determined. It could be throughout all layers. It could be just a few of the layers. We're not totally sure.
Okay.
At times we toy around with the idea that some of these layers look like there may not even be mini column effects. So there's a lot of things still up in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, if there's nothing else, I think we're going to wrap it up. And if you guys have anything else you want to discuss, bring it up on the forums. And we'll do another Hackers Hangout in about a month. And remember, the AI with the Best conference, I think, is like the 26th. So, and I think that's the only event that's coming up currently. So
is that going to be televised? Is that going to be?
No, you have to pay
broadcast?
for it. You have to pay for it. It's
Okay.
it's remote. It's only like $60, but the way that conference works, it's actually a pretty nice remote setup. All of the speakers have got their own sort of broadcasting page, and you can go watch any of the speakers. You can jump in between them. You can chat with them. And for anybody who's registered, to download and watch anytime afterwards.
You can all come to my house and we can watch it together.
There you go.
Just one thing, Matt. Do you have the video from the meetup?
Oh, that's right. I do. It's bad quality. I haven't even edited it yet. So that's something that I can work on. Thanks for reminding me. I completely forgot about it. So I'll get that fixed up and post it in some form.
Very good.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining HTM Hackers Hangout.
One other thing real quick, just because my answers probably weren't very satisfying to David and other people, but at some point, I assume when we have a little bit more better grip on some of these things, we'll have Subutai and Jeff in one of these calls as well, and we'll be able to do a little bit better job answering those things.
So I think we'll do an office hour when we're ready for that.
Cool. Yeah, I understand you guys are still working on it, so whatever new information we get, it's like gold glittering from the sky.
And just on that subject, we've sorted out some IP issues which we've been working on for the summer, and we're going to have some announcements about the stuff we've been working on. It's connected with HTM, but it's going to possibly answer a few of those questions as well about sensory motor stuff.
Say who you are, Fergal.
Sorry, yeah, I'm Fergal Byrne, so I'm kind of working on the
in
theory.
Your company?
Well, I have a couple of companies, but the company I've been working with that we started in January is called Ogma Intelligent Systems Corp. And basically, it's a fusion of my theory, which is an extension of HTM, and stuff that Eric has been working on in kind of conventional machine learning technology, but with his own twist. And it turns out that they're both doing the same thing. And so you're going to see something during September. Basically, we're going to be making a few announcements about what we've been doing for the last 3/4 of a year. So,
looking forward to finding out. Good luck. Okay, so let's wrap it up then. See you guys on the forum. Take care.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, cheers, Matt.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, mail out some of that winner's guacamole.
You don't want it anymore.
All right, have a good one, guys.